Welcome to the Migrating Financial Reporting to Management Reports, Tips and Tricks and Workarounds, and also hope to show you at least one new feature that's available to us. So I do want to introduce ArganoInterRel, and our mission is to leave the world in a smarter place than we found it. We do have quite a lot of experience, ACE directors, and we offer many services. And we do have a very high net promoter score of 77%, which is almost unheard of in the satisfaction ratings of our customers when compared against other consulting firms. So I am very, very proud to be part of this organization. Also want to let you know that today's session is just part of a series of upcoming webinars, and here are some additional ones coming up, the 5th of January through the end of January. So look for these on a regular basis. What we'll be covering today is some high-level steps for migrating from the financial reporting over to management reporting. And I do intend on talking about both management reporting in the EPM cloud tools, such as planning and FCCS. Also, it applies to migrating into the narrative reporting cloud service. There are some minor differences between management reporting in narrative reporting cloud versus the EPM cloud tools, which I will cover. 3 of the functional workarounds that I'll be showing you are the disappearing page axis. The same as function has been eliminated in management reports, and also the additional steps needed in order to generate a table of contents inside of a book. Once I go through these topics, then I'll be showing you the brand new, as of last month, the new EPM books add-in for SmartView, which gives us the ability to open up books inside of SmartView, and you'll see how that works, and I'll do a demonstration of it. I think it'll become very, very useful tool in many organizations. So somehow my biography slide seemed to skip by. I have been with ArganoInterRel for 2 years, and prior to that, I have spent over 20 years in education services for Hyperion and also Oracle University, teaching many different classes. I've been working with the reporting tools for 20 years at this point. So I would like to handle any questions at the end of our session. If you don't mind holding off until then, we'll open it up for questions. So the first thing I wanted to cover is just high-level migration steps. And it does depend on whether you're reporting or migrating from the legacy financial report studio in on-premise versus whether you're going to be migrating from an already in place financial reports inside of the EPM cloud. So tools like Planning Cloud, FCCS Cloud have had financial reporting web studio embedded in it for a couple of years now, but Oracle has given the direction that the management reports is the new direction, and eventually, no hard deadlines, but probably over the next 5 years, the legacy financial reporting tools will be sunsetted. So if you are migrating from on-premise, you do want to create a data source in your management reporting, and this would be a narrative reporting as it's being discussed here. You would need to create a data source with the same name. You can export your reports from your on-premise, import those then into the management reporting tool and narrative reporting, open up each report and correct any validation errors. Only the reports can be migrated. Unfortunately, books and bursting cannot be migrated. So visually, you would export from on-premise financial reporting. So you can export individual reports, you can export a group of reports from financial reporting. If you're exporting from EPM Cloud legacy financial reports, Oracle has provided a very convenient tool. So this is a screenshot of a Planning Cloud instance. And now when you go to the reports icon or card in the Planning Cloud, there are 3 categories over at the left. The top one represents the new management reports, or simply called reports in this tool. The middle one is the legacy financial reports, and the third one is actually for documents, such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and PDF documents that could be uploaded and then included in books. So first of all, if I go to the legacy financial reports, the middle tool, each existing financial report will have a migrate button next to it. You could also click migrate all to do it all at once. And this row called sales is a book, and we still cannot migrate books to the management reports. In narrative reporting cloud service, you would have to create data sources by going to the library tool. And in the library, an administrator would see the folder for data sources. I can click the little add button and say add a data source. And this is where I would set up the name of the data source to be the same as it was in financial reports. And then set up the parameters to say what type of data source and how to access it and how to connect to it. Then in order to import your reports, again, this is narrative reporting cloud service. I can click the little actions button, which is this small little gear in the library over at the far right. In the menu, scrolling down actually quite a bit, you would find the import tool, and then you would answer questions about where to import from, where to place the reports being imported, which in this case, the same as the export location, they would have the same path. And then overwriting any existing objects with the same name. Also, there's an option to include the access permissions, which is recommended to check. Finally, as you open each report after it's been migrated, if there are any validation errors, a red line will appear at the top of the design mode. And if you click on that red line, it will pop up a box which has a list of errors. And sometimes as you fix one error, if the line doesn't disappear, you would click it again and the next error. So once all of the errors have been addressed, this red line would disappear and then users could use the report. So we cannot view the report until all errors have been fixed. As I mentioned, there are some minor differences between using management reports in the narrative reporting cloud service versus the management reports tool inside of the EPM cloud, such as planning and FCCS. So first of all, in narrative reporting cloud service, we can actually create data sources to draw data from many different systems and use that data in the same management report. However, the management reports tool in planning or FCCS, the data sources are limited to that planning application or the FCCS application into the plan types or the cubes within that. Management reports and narrative reporting do have notes objects that can be added, kind of like sticky notes, and users can actually add comments and responses into the notes object. This tool does not exist in management reports in the EPM cloud tools. Full auditing is just automatically provided in the narrative reporting cloud service, and there is no auditing feature of report design changes in the EPM cloud. Bursting can be created in either environment. However, in the narrative reporting cloud service, there is no scheduler tool built in as of this point in time. There may be in the future, but not guaranteed. So you could do bursting or execute report bursting using EPM Automate. However, in the EPM cloud, there is actually a job scheduler available to us, and we could execute bursting through that job scheduler tool in, for instance, planning. Fonts can be managed in both environments, just where you do it is slightly different. If you go into the library interface in Narrative Reporting Cloud, you would see a fonts folder, and the administrator can upload new fonts into the Narrative Reporting Cloud from there. However, in EPM Cloud, you would go to, the administrator would go to the application settings tool, and at the very end, a brand new button has been added called Report Settings. When you click that button, it would give you the opportunity to upload fonts to your planning cloud or FCCS cloud to use in the management reports design. So some of the key differences between financial reports and management reports, and which may have to be addressed after migration, is that the legacy financial reports had a page access area as part of the design. A dimension, and it was optional to use, but one or more dimensions could have been placed in the page axis. Multiple members selected for the page dimensions, and when the report was run, each member would output on a separate printed page, or users could click from a drop-down when viewing in a web preview of the report. So this area no longer exists in management reports, but we can actually achieve the same functionality. I'll show you how. Also, when building prompts in the legacy financial reports, it was very convenient then to refer to the prompt answers by using the same as function. This function is not present in management reports. Talking about advanced member selection tools, using the and or and not type of statements to do advanced member selection statements. I'll show you how we get around that there is no longer an advanced mode. And then finally, books no longer have an automatic table of contents, but I'll show you how we can add table of contents. So this is a screenshot of the legacy financial reports, the dimension layout area. When building a new report, or I could go back and edit the dimension layout as part of the grid properties, I could drag and drop dimensions from the point of view into the rows, columns, and there was a separate page area present in the dimension layout. So in this example, the product dimension was dropped into the page area. Multiple products were then selected from the dimension. And then when users were previewing the report, each product selected for the page area would be part of a drop-down in a web preview, or if this was PDF printed, it would be output. Each item would be output on a separate printed page. usually with a page break in between by default. So that is no longer present in management reports. Instead, the equivalent feature is now actually just part of the point of view setup. So we would leave our dimension that we would like to be in the page, the equivalent page axis. We would leave it in the point of view. You would then configure your member selections for that dimension. Multiple members can be selected. But then there's a little actions button, this little ellipse, and when you pop up the menu, you would put a check mark next to say print all selections. So I should actually be able to show you that. If I go into reports, and do be patient, the first time you go to some of these screens, it takes a second. I have a report called page demonstration that if I go straight into edit mode, this report is certainly not sophisticated at all. So it takes a second to open up edit mode. It's loading. I apologize. But the next time I come back, it will not take this long to go into the edit mode of a report. So in the design mode of the management reports, we see the report layout, and then I can click the pencil to edit the grid. And this opens up the grid editor. These look like my point of view up at the top. So just a quick reminder that if the designer of report selects a single member of the dimension, the point of view is locked to that member. If the designer of the report, such as entity, has selected multiple members, in this case, the children of total department inclusive, then the user will get what looks like a drop-down, and they can change their point of view within the constraints of the children of total department inclusive. Product looks the same way, that multiple members have been selected. However, if I click this little ellipse, I can print all selections is what I've checkmarked. So this is just a toggle. Now, when I go to preview this report, let me close the grid editor. I can preview the report from, as a designer, I can preview it from here. The web presentation, which is what's coming up, user would just have to click this dimension and choose which they would like to see. But now if I switch over to a PDF view, each of those selections, that dimension drops off of the point of view here as the PDF is being generated. So the hardware products is the first page, and then the second page is the services. So it did create, it outputs each product on a separate printed page by saying that print all selections. Let me close my preview, and I'm back to my report library. So that's the workaround for the missing page axis. When it comes to the same as function, we can still build prompts, very, very similar to building prompts in the legacy financial reports tool. But in order to refer to the prompt answer, we can no longer use the same as function. So this screenshot was from a legacy financial reports where they had built the prompt for which time period for column A, and then whatever the user selected for the time period, the same selection was then used for column B. Just make column B the same as column A. little bit trickier in management reports, but the same end result can be achieved. What we do in management reporting, it actually takes a couple of steps to get to the same place. First of all, when you open up the member selector tool, you want to switch over from member selections over to functions by using this drop down at the bottom of the little member selector tool. Then in the list of functions, the prompt function. Here, it's actually much more wizard-like in management reports. It'll tell you what are the expected parameters. The user will say, please choose a quarter. You can limit which quarters or which members the user can select from. That's your choices list. Whether multiple selections will be allowed or only a single selection is just dependent on this check mark. And then a default selection. Once you've configured the parameters, you click the select button and the prompt function will be moved over to the selections area over to the left. So that's step one of this process, to build the prompt. Then what you do as step two is in the selections area, once the prompt has been placed over in this selections area, you click the little actions button, again, the little gear, and say save the selection and give it a name. So the name can be anything you want. In my example, I simply called it quarter choice. Once you give it a name and click OK, the member selection will then change to look like this at the bottom of the screen. The name quarter choice is, then the arguments of this function is the prompt function, and then the arguments of the prompt function are then reflected here, all embedded in your selection. So a couple of steps to set up the prompt and save it as a named selection. Then whenever you need to use that prompt answer, you simply insert from your saved selections area. So again, when you open up the member selector tool, for instance, in column B, you would go down and change to saved selections. You would see your saved selections and you would select it by clicking the little check mark, and that will place it over in the left column. When it's all said and done, each column will actually reflect the same function for column A and column B. Again, I do have an example of that, the save selections. So if I go and edit this report, and again, notice how that opened much, much faster the second time. And go back into the design of the grid. To help see this easier, I'm going to temporarily make this column wider so you can actually see the entire function. So this was done by selecting that heading, opening up the member selector tool, and again, I first went to the functions to build my prompt. Then I clicked here and saved the selection and gave it a name. Then all I had to do was insert that into the second column. So somehow the screen kind of got lost on me, but let me just temporarily close this and go back in and we can see it again. So I certainly don't need that column that wide. When I preview the report, the prompt appears, please choose a quarter. I'll choose quarter two, quarter one, and quarter two, since I did say allow multiple. I'll click OK, and the report runs. So for FY17, both quarters, for FY18, which was column B of the design, quarter one and quarter two. So the end result, we can achieve the same outcome as the same as function. I'm going to go ahead and close my report design. And no, I don't want to save changes because all I did was adjust that column width. Financial reports, the legacy financial reports, when the member selector tool was open, you could go to the functions tab of the member selector tool. And in that tab, we could toggle to what was called advanced mode by clicking this little button to either hide or show the advanced mode. This displayed the column that said operator, the choices and, or, and then union. Also, there was a column that said not, so you could actually build I want this and not that type of statements in the legacy financial reports using the advanced mode. This advanced mode doesn't exist in the member selector tool of management reports. What does exist is two new functions. The first function is the intersect function. And then when needed, we could use the function called the except function. So first of all, the intersect function only outputs members that meet each of the member set descriptions. So it's like an and statement. So if I'd say I would like the descendants of a specific product that only are at the fourth generation of the product's dimension, well, only the members that meet both of those statements would be output in the results. They would be a descendant of one and a fourth generation product. The except function, only has two parameters. In general, we would set up our member selection. So I would say I would like the descendants of a specific product as member set 1. And then member set 2 would be the products that I don't want to include in the output. So I could say except for the children of a specific product. So here, member set 1 is the general member set to output. Member set 2 are the members that you don't want to be output from that first set. So we can achieve the same type of functionality using the combination of the intersect function and, when needed, the except function. I do not have a demonstration for this. It used to be in legacy financial reports, when a book of reports was first put together in Legacy Financial Reports Studio. Whenever you opened the book, a user would open up a book. The book would automatically generate a table of contents when the book was being opened, and nothing special really had to be configured. Yes, you could configure how the table of contents looked, but it was almost an automatic table of contents generation if you even didn't take a moment to configure it. In the management reports tool, we can still put together books of reports. Don't forget, a book of reports can contain multiple reports or a single report. But one of the key things about books is that we can make multiple selections for the point of view as part of our book specifications. And then when the book is opened, each selection would be output inside of the book, as the report would then cycle multiple times, once for each point of view selection. But a table of contents is no longer automatically generated in management reports. What you have to do then in management reports is actually be prepared with a Word document. And in that Word document, it's optional. You could create a title page. A lot of people do. And then you can insert a table of contents in Word. So to do that, I found the easiest way is just to use a little wizard in Word. You open up the reference menu bar, and in the references menu bar, the very first button you click would let you choose to insert an automatic table of contents. And it will end up looking like this. It prepares a table, which is a table of contents table, but we would save the Word document at this point. The next step would be to upload that Word document into the cloud. So I did mention that the third tool here this is Planning Cloud. I can upload the Word document into this documents area. And again, there is an upload button right here that I just uploaded it from my computer. But once I uploaded it, I could then insert that document into a book. So I need to go back up to the top. So I do have a book right here. Or actually, I believe I set this up without a table of contents so I could show it to you. I'll go into the book editor. So I'll edit this book. Yes, this book merely has one report, but the entity dimension has been set up so that there are 3 entities to be output when the book is opened for this report. To put that table of contents in, then I click this little drop down next to the test book and say, add a child of a table of contents. Because I uploaded that into the library, I can select it right here and click OK. It will actually put it at the end, but that's not a big deal because once I see my table of contents Word document, I can then move it above and say move it above the revenue forecast report. So that's how I get it first. Now I can save my reports or my book, I'm sorry. And when I do preview the reports, this is because I have turned on my point of view preview. That's why it says run the book. I have to click that. It does take a second to run books. So again, just be patient. It's generating the preview and converting it to PDF. So here is actually, this came from the Word document. Then my table of contents was automatically generated when the book was opened. So each of those 3 entities is output on a separate page in the book. And there's the first entity, the second entity, and the third entity then being output. So it takes a couple of extra steps to actually place a table of contents into a management reports book. I'm going to go ahead and close that. So I actually kept a version of that book without the table of contents, and then now I have the same book with the table of contents dropped in it. But at this point in time, so I've documented those steps here in my presentation, what I just showed you. I'm going to be switching over now to introduce the new EPM Books add-in for SmartView, which was actually just released last month by Oracle. What this SmartView extension allows you to do is that you can open up books created either in the EPM cloud tools or books created in the narrative reporting cloud. You can actually connect through SmartView and open a book into your Excel workbooks. So when this tool is used, there will be a new panel that you can toggle to in the SmartView panel area of SmartView, and a new ribbon will appear also when a book is opened. To install this new books extension that I'm referring to, the only way to do it right now is to go to your SmartView and connect to a cloud service first. So it doesn't matter whether you connect to an EPM cloud tool or narrative reporting. But then you go back to your SmartView options and go to the extensions category. Then you would click this little check for updates and new installs. You would see the new, it's called EPM Books, as a new available add-in for SmartView, and you can install it from there. So as you see in this screenshot, it's already been installed and enabled in my extensions area of SmartView. There is some documentation then, some Oracle help about how to install this new EPM Books add-in. So to use the EPM Books extension, we would first connect, and it does depend if you're connecting to a narrative reporting cloud, you do it through private connections. If you're connecting to a planning cloud, you would do it through shared connections. But either way, after you've connected to your cloud service, you can still view the different folders in the library. You could still see the existing reports, but you would not see any books in this view. The only way to see the books is to then toggle, and this is the new panel that I'm referring to. If I click this drop down next to the little house, you would see a new item listed called EPM Books, and that will display this panel over at the far right. So all of your books would then be listed in this panel. The first time I actually jumped to this little screen, I did have to click this very tiny refresh button in order for it to fetch the list of books. It didn't seem to automatically list the books when I toggled to this display. So you may have to click the refresh in order to see the list of available books. I did remind you that patience is rewarded, because it seems like it takes a long time to generate a book when doing it through the EPM Books in SmartView. Next to each book, you can click the little info button and it will pop up, for instance, more information about the book, which folder it's actually stored in. Actually, if you scroll to the right, the folder that it's stored in is actually listed in the second column, but it does tell you more information about when it was created and when it was last modified. To actually run the book, you would click the little play button next to the book. And this is where the patience is needed. It will flash a brief message to say the job has been submitted, but the book is actually being generated up on the cloud. And you can see it listed. The lower part of the panel will show a jobs console. It will show you that the status is it's in progress. And that may seem to be in progress for quite a while. You can click the little refresh button to update the status. But once it's ready, a little green arrow will appear that tells you the book is ready to download to you into SmartView. So you first have to wait to generate it, and then you have to tell it when you're ready to download it. When you do click the download button, it will automatically generate a table of contents for you, which is kind of, I think, kind of cool. You don't have to have a special Word document inserted in your book. Any book, if it doesn't have a table of contents, it will, opening that book up in the SmartView EPM books, the table of contents will automatically go on the first sheet of your workbook, and then each iteration of the reports in the book will be output on a separate worksheet inside of the Excel workbook. A very tiny little menu bar will appear at the top, which is simply called the books, and it only has 3 buttons. You can refresh a book. You can edit the point of view of a book, usually, not on the table of contents though, and the inspect button. So in SmartView, if I go to my panel, shared connections, I should be ready to actually, and forgive me very quickly if I put in my name and password. So I've connected to my EPM cloud, the same one I was showing you a second ago. When I look in my library, or actually if I look in my reports folder, I would not see the books listed there. Does seem to be thinking about it, doesn't it? Unfortunately, I do have to wait, but while I'm waiting, let me open this up for any questions that people might have. So questions can be posted in the chat area, I believe, of the Zoom session. Currently, I'm not seeing any open questions at this point in time. So let me just see if it, yep, it's still spinning away. Sorry about that. What I am going to do, there we go. We do have one Q&A. So the parity between the financial reports and management reporting is constantly being improved. So the current question is why would someone want to switch from the financial reports into management reports? I have found that the parity is actually very, very close. Yes, a couple of things do have to be done differently in the management reports tool. However, what it does offer us at the moment, that if you are a brand new customer, I would always suggest starting with the management reports and do not look backwards to the financial reports. If you are a migrating customer, you still have time to migrate your financial reports into management reports. So Oracle is constantly making improvements and parity improvements between the two. I have found, though, that almost everything can be reproduced in management reports. Even today, I can't say that I've seen everything, though. And that would be my answer, that eventually over the next 4 to 5 years, you will want to be migrating. So if there are new reports your company needs, I would just jump in and do them in the management reports. Let's see, I do have something in the chat area. Says option to send report books to a specific folder instead of bursting to email. The books themselves do not contain destinations. However, your batch bursting is, you can certainly drop a book into the batch bursting, and in batch bursting is where you can designate destinations of your output. So that's how it would be accomplished. The second question, will recordings of this be available? The answer is yes, we do. I do expect that the recording of this session will be posted under the InterRel account on YouTube, and you can watch it again at your leisure. Unless there aren't any other questions, this is really, I don't think I'm going to get my smart view to actually behave in a reasonable amount of time. Let's see if there's another question. Would bursting into Excel be a big win? So just directly into Excel sheets. We can burst, and then I have found that it's always much easier to go through Smart View to open up either reports or books now into Smart View. We don't have as many options as far as pushing reports from the cloud into Excel. It works. There is some tools to do, but you have much more flexibility and control if you actually log in through Smart View and go from that direction to open up either books or bursting, or books or reports into your Excel spreadsheets. Those are currently all the questions that I see. So I do want to thank all of you for your patience. And I do hope you picked up a few tips and tricks regarding the conversion from financial reports over to management reports. And thank you all for your time.